Hello and welcome to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey and all teams. There's been some changes in the offseason. The GMs voted on some rule changes.
Yep.
There's been some frustration the past couple of days with the preseason games. Frustration by players, frustration by coaches, and by fans and media as well. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the GMs are frustrated because they're the ones who voted on it, so I don't know how they can be frustrated, but... So there was a problem last year during the playoffs. The Ottawa Senators thought that Crosby was cheating on the faceoffs. And I believe some other GMs had the same opinion. And that's kind of what started the whole idea about changing the rules in the faceoff. Mm-hmm. Now, again, I need to stress that the GMs wanted this. It was the GM's decision. It wasn't the NHL itself. Or I'm sure they had a little bit to do with it, but this was a vote. So it wasn't. It wasn't mandatory. This was something that they proposed and wanted.
Yeah.
And if you've watched any of the preseason games so far, you'll know how frustrating it's been because it was an issue last season, and this wasn't even a thing. Well, it was a thing, but they weren't enforcing it as much. Mm-hmm. There's very strict guidelines in the face-off right now. There's guys being thrown out. There's guys having penalties, and I'm going to explain it to you right now. Okay, so let's draw it out. You have the circle, and you have a little line here and a little line here. This is all colored in, and this part is empty. Then we have the actual lines where the guys face off, like this. The skates go here, of course. So there are two ways that there can be a violation. Way number one is that these skates actually cross this line. If any of the other skates cross that forward line, it's a violation. The second part is the visiting or away team, that player who's taking the faceoff has to have their stick in that white zone. If their stick is not there, that's a violation. If this player, the home team player, crosses this line over here and tries to swoop in too early, that's a violation. So there's really two things there that can cause a violation, and the refs, some refs are being a little bit more lenient, some refs are really being hard on it, but that's basically it. All right, so as you could just see by my drawing, there's little things that you need to pay attention to. You need to have your stick in the right area, and more importantly, you need to have your skates in the right area. There's a line in front of the skates. If even the toe of the skate crosses that line, waved off.
Now, I think it's important to note that the rule has largely always been there.
Yes.
It's not about a new rule being created necessarily. It's more about the enforcement of the existing rules.
Yes, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And that's great, but there's so many other things on the bucket list of things to do in the NHL. Like, it's not the refs' fault. The refs are just doing what they're supposed to do. The refs have their own boss, and their boss is telling them to call it by the rule book because that's what the NHL wants. It's not the refs' fault, in my opinion. They're just doing their job.
Oh, no.
But, I mean...
They're getting direction from above. And I had a rant earlier in the post-to-post history in the last season, and my rant was, for God's sakes, just drop the puck. Yep. Drop the puck. And I just wanted this face-off craziness to stop because they would almost fake the drop. The players would spin around each other. They'd wave one or both guys out. They'd do it again and maybe again and again.
Yeah, and it wasn't consistent.
It wasn't consistent. And Don Cherry, I think, weighed in a few years ago saying it's almost as if the linesmen want to become more relevant in the game. They want to be part of the game somehow.
Yeah.
And so they can throw players out and go on a power trip because they don't really call many penalties as a linesman. I don't know if it came down to that sort of thing really, but I wanted them just to drop the puck. And the linesmen are waiting for the players to line up properly before they drop the puck.
Yeah.
That's why it was taking so long. The linesmen weren't seeing what they needed to see for them to finish the job of beginning the faceoff. So now the linesmen are being given more power to, compel the players to follow the rules for a change. And we're not going to sit here and throw guys out of the circle and wait and fiddle around. We're going to do it once, and then if it happens a second time, you're gone.
Yeah, you're gone.
And you're not just gone, you're in the penalty box.
Yeah,
and your team's down a man for 2 minutes or less.
And it's been called multiple times.
Yeah.
The Toronto-Ottawa game.
Toronto-Ottawa first game was 3 times, and the first, I think, period and a half.
Yeah, I think the Tourist was one of them.
Washington and New Jersey, their game the same night, I think it's called 3 times there.
Yeah.
And at one point you could see Mike Babcock behind the Toronto bench like, what was that? What just happened?
Yeah.
And, again, the coaches weren't part of this. It's the GMs that make these decisions. The coaches have to try to live with it. But after having said all that and sounding like I'm whining, I'm not. Because of all the things that they've tried, this might be the thing that actually gets closer and quicker to dropping the damn puck. Because if the players change their behavior in the next month or two and learn that if I do put my skate over that line that you drew before the puck gets dropped, I'm going to go to the penalty box. And they're going to change their behavior.
They are, and I understand that, but what's it matter how people take face-offs?
Oh, I think
it's a skill. I mean,
it's a skill, but it's only a skill if you do it within the rules of the game, in my view. The cheat, how do you cheat on a face-off? Like you're standing there, how do you cheat? You cheat by being in motion when the puck is dropped.
Yeah, but it's not like only one person can be in motion. They can both be in motion. They can both cheat. And if they're both cheating, then no one's cheating because they're both doing the same thing. Like just let them do whatever they want.
Well, here's an idea that a friend of mine, my former boss, came up with today when we were having lunch.
Yeah.
He said, what about this? The linesman puts the puck on the dot.
Okay.
Just leaves it on the dot and backs away. And the two guys line up and the linesman's 10, 15 feet away. And when the linesman's happy with the alignment, he tweets. And then they go for it.
Okay.
Because right now, some of the cheating, if you want to call it that, is they're trying to get a cue from the linesman. Like, that particular linesman, he takes a deep breath just before he drops the puck. So
right.
I know. So this way here, you put the puck in the ice and you back off, and the puck is just sitting there. And when the linesman's happy, he blows his whistle, and then the face-off starts, and he's already back there. The other good thing about that, I kind of like the idea, is that the linesman can see both guys from a distance. Because in that one of those Ottawa-Toronto penalties, the Toronto guy got the penalty, but the Ottawa guy was actually violating even before the Toronto guy. The Ottawa guy's skate was across the line, but he was out of the field of view of the linesman because he was leaning over to get ready to drop the puck, and the skate was right underneath him. Meanwhile, the Toronto guy was slightly in motion. He got the penalty. The Ottawa guy thought he was going to the penalty box.
I do like that idea, but I think you'll still run into the same issues. Because if in that scenario, both players have to have their puck on the stick, maybe on the edge of the circle, and then the puck would be in the middle of the circle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if the linesman is back off this way, line of sight, maybe the player on this side knows he can inch his stick in a little bit because that linesman can't see the other side of the dot.
Maybe, or the linesman could be at an angle. He could be back in the corner.
It could be, but there's going to be cheating either way, I think.
Well, people will try to take advantage of whatever rule you enact. But totally. I think this makes it fairer. Because there were face-off specialists. Crosby was one. If you go back into the, 30 years ago, Doug Jarvis from Montreal, he was a face-off specialist. I think Donald Odette maybe was a face-off guy. I forget. But, players usually had their go-to guy for face-offs. They'd put out, sometimes they'd put their two best guys in the playoffs. So, 1 minute left, you're in your own zone.
Yeah,
put two face-off guys.
It's a big thing.
In.
I totally understand. It's just, it slows the game down. There's so many other things, the rules that need looked at. I mean, the headshots are just still continuing to come. There's equipment stuff that could be discussed. Stuff is so hard nowadays.
Yeah.
The equipment's so hard. That could be, back in the day, used to be soft. I mean, make it soft.
I agree.
Again.
These elbow pads that are ballistic plastic, you could
huge.
just knock someone's head off.
And
whereas they used to be a soft pad.
And goalie equipment. I mean, I don't really care a lot about this one, but there's 6 foot, 170-pound goalies wearing pants this big, like not needed. So
yeah.
I just think there's so many other things to talk about.
There's lots of things. I think the fix on this is easy, though. I think the fix is easy. You just enforce the rule. Try it. Keep calling these penalties. See if the behavior changes. I know it will. It'll have to because teams can't be penalized. What was it? Vancouver had 20 power plays in that game against
12 today.
Against in that game in China against LA. They still lost.
They did, but I understand it. It's frustrating, but when's it going to come and cost a team a game that matters? Like you mentioned earlier, the Ottawa player had the skate in, but the linesman didn't see it. That's going to happen again, and it's going to happen in a game. Maybe it's a playoff game. Maybe it's a Stanley Cup Final Game 7 game that loses the Stanley Cup. You don't know. Like it's not foolproof. It's just creating more chance for a mistake.
As long as you have humans making these decisions, whether it's a call, now they can do, video review of goals and things, but if you have humans calling offsides and calling penalties, or not calling penalties, as the case may be, you're going to be faced with this degree of uncertainty and the what if.
I just think they're overcomplicating it.
I think they're simplifying it.
It was never an issue before. They're just slowing down the game. And the same thing's going to happen as last year.
I think they're speeding the game up.
They tried to improve. They tried to... no.
They are. Because this is only going to happen once or twice, and then it's going to stop happening.
But they tried it last year, and then they forgot about it by Thanksgiving. And they went back to their old ways. And it's going to happen this year, too.
Not if they stick to their guns.
Well, if they stick to their guns, there's just going to be a lot of frustration. It slows down the game. I'm sick of it.
That speeds the game up. I think it's great.
All right.
It's your show. You can be wrong if you want.
It's not my show. It's our show. Let's move on to slashing.
Slashing.
This is a big one.
Yeah.
Because we saw what happened last year when Method got hit by Crosby up in the gloves. They're really trying to avoid the hard slashing. Gaudreau got slashed, I think, too. Yeah.
I still see that piece hanging.
So I'm more on the side with the NHL from this one.
Yeah.
I understand it. It was frustrating watching the game today, seeing so many penalties called, just one-handed. It wasn't even a slash.
Yeah, it was one of the Sedins.
It's like this.
He just reached out with his hand.
It was pathetic, and they called it slashing.
Yeah, they called it slashing.
But that's what they have to do in order to get that to stop, and it will. I'm in favor of this one.
But what if that slows the game down?
That's a rule they're going to listen to. They've been trying to fix the face-off thing for a while, and it hasn't worked. This is something that they can fix. I mean,
yeah.
Look at obstruction and see how well that went before. It's
yeah, I agree. Actually, I like the increased focus on slashing, and not so much a slash. When I think of slashing, I think of a whack.
Yeah.
Of basically sticks being used to try to slow down or impede the progress of the other player, rather than to play the puck.
Yeah.
So I'm all in favor of continuing to clamp down on players who use their sticks for things other than playing the puck.
Yep, they're trying to keep the stick out of the area of the other player's hand.
Yep.
That's what they should do.
Yep, right on.
Thumbs up.
I'm cool with it.
Last on the list is the coach's challenge penalty.
Yeah, yeah.
So if they challenge for an offside or a goal, or is it just offside?
I'm just comfortable saying it's offside for now, because goals are kind of important. But
I'm not 100% either.
Yeah,
so
it might be a few other things.
If they lose the challenge, they get penalized.
Yeah.
This should have been implemented last year. I'm a fan of this. It's because there are so many coaches' challenges going out for just to get a timeout in some instances late in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally for this.
Yeah.
Penalize the coach, a delay game or whatever you want to do. It's smart.
And if you called a timeout before, it was 30 seconds or whatever. But typically, if you call a challenge,
it's at least a minute.
It's at least a minute, probably 3 or 4. While the two linesmen or the two refs, depending on the kind of thing you're getting the call on, they're over there with their little iPad and they're looking at stuff and they've got the headphones on. And you can sit back, have a couple of swigs of water, and it's all great. Now there'll be more risk involved.
Yeah, definitely.
And if a coach really thinks that he was screwed over by a call, then he can still make it and he can still give it a try.
I'm surprised this rule wasn't implemented from the beginning last year.
Yeah.
But
I like the idea of video review, but I don't like the time it's taking.
It is, they need to cut down on the time. It's ridiculous. There was calls last year that took like 12 minutes. I think it was a Pittsburgh Buffalo game or something stupid like that.
And I think one coach, I guess these were I don't know if they were crease violations or actual goal calls. Yeah, it was a call, one of the decisions the ref had to make was did the puck cross the line. The other decision a different ref or the same ref had to make was whether it's the goaltender interference.
Yeah.
So the call went one way,
which was a good goal.
Good goal, and then the other team challenged on the goaltender interference, so they got another 5 minutes off.
And it ended up being no goal.
It turned into a zoo.
It was ridiculous.
It was just nuts.
So it's not a perfect system, but it's improving. I mean, technology is what it is. Cameras will get better as time goes on, and
they'll put a microchip in a hockey puck, and soon they'll know with technology whether it crossed the line or not.
Yeah, it's already there. They're just working on it. I mean, it's expensive. Think about all the pucks that go into use. Think about all the pucks that go over the boards. They all need these chips in them. That costs money. I understand it. So it's just a matter of time.
Maybe you'll have netting all the way around the rink so they won't lose so many
it?
pucks.
Maybe. Yeah, so I think that wraps up this video.
I think so. I'm looking forward to the new season, to seeing what they do. I hope whatever they do with all these 3 rules, I hope they're consistent about it. And I hope that it does speed the game up, whether we think it will or not. I hope it does, whichever way it goes. And,
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, let us know down in the comment section below how you feel about any one of these rules, or all 3, or just in general. Just let us know how you feel. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button, because there's going to be a ton of NHL content coming very soon now that we're getting back into the season. So looking forward to getting back into that, and we'll see you in the future. Adios.